Hello, I'm Sherry Sturman, Director of Crayola Education. We're excited that Harper Kids is collaborating with Crayola on this Art of Learning program. Art helps children learn about themselves and others. Today, we're going to explore what we can learn from holidays, some that are celebrated by our families and others by members of our community and around the world. So gather your students, your friends, or your family. Grab some art supplies and get ready for a hands-on learning session. I'm thrilled to introduce author Liz Kleinrock and illustrator Chaaya Prabhat, the team that created Come and Join Us. Welcome, Liz and Chaaya.
Hi, Sherry. And hi, Chaaya. Thank you so much for having us today. We're really, really excited to be here.
I'm really excited to be here too, and I'm excited to draw with everybody today.
Liz, as an educator, you've developed many resources that help others teach with an anti-bias, anti-racist lens. You've received the Teaching Tolerance 2018 Award for Excellence in Teaching and presented a fantastic TED Talk on equity for learners. How does your work on diversity, equity, and inclusion connect with your writing this holiday book?
Thank you so much for that question. I would say that my work on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging have really been the biggest influence in this book. That's really how this book came to be. When we think about how certain aspects of our identities, our cultures, and also who holds power in our communities too all come together, sometimes that means that certain people and certain cultures and traditions are seen as more important or better than others, when that really isn't true. And because I grew up not celebrating certain holidays that most other people around me did, it often made me feel kind of isolated and not really seen. And so by writing this book, I really hope that children and families who maybe don't get that attention and spotlight have the opportunity to celebrate, to be proud of who they are, and for other people to also be able to learn from them.
Beautiful. And we're excited to learn about some of those holidays that you've celebrated as we go through the book today. Chaaya, you have a strong artistic background as a graphic designer, illustrator, and lettering artist. You've worked for many tech companies and visionary organizations, including the Obon Foundation. How have these roles informed your work as a children's book illustrator?
I'm very lucky to be able to do what I love for a living. I've been very lucky to work on different projects for various different kinds of companies, like big tech companies, and gotten to work on logos and pamphlets and posters and all these different things. And for me, when it comes to children's books, it's a combination of all the things that I love to do. I love to hand letter and I love to use bright, bold colors, and I love storytelling through art, and all of that comes together in children's books. So that's what I love about it.
Liz, how did your experiences growing up in your family and the community of your childhood deepen your understanding of how people form their sense of personal identity? And what advice do you have for teachers, parents, allies, and advocates as they help kids form their personal identity?
And I think about all of the different identities that I possess just as one person. I am a transracial adoptee. So I was adopted from Korea when I was really little into a family that are white presenting Ashkenazi Jews. And so I identify as Asian, Korean, and adoptee, Jewish, all these different things happening all at the same time. I think often when we talk about identity with young people, and even adults too, sometimes the conversations are set up so people are forced to choose which part of yourself is more important than others. Or people have sometimes a hard time understanding that you can be more than one thing at the same time. And it's really because of these experiences, having to educate people, really having to develop a voice to speak up for myself throughout my life, that has really inspired me to do work like this particular book. When I think about supporting teachers, parents, and young people, and thinking about what it means to be like a meaningful ally, not just a label that people might want to give themselves, but what does it actually mean to be in solidarity and work and live alongside other people who are different from you? I think it's important for people to look around and think about Who isn't in the room? Whose voices are not being listened to right now? Whose perspectives might we have forgotten to include? And what can we do to reach out to others in our community to make sure that we are affirming who people are while also making sure that folks' voices are included?
Beautiful. You've really whet our appetite to learn more about what's inside the book. Liz, please read a few sections of the book and talk about holidays that are particularly significant to you and Chaaya, and add some comments about the connection between holidays and what makes each celebration special. So Liz, let's start by reading the book's introduction.
Great. Welcome to our classroom. You've arrived at just the right time to celebrate the holidays with us. When picturing the holidays, a lot of people think about winter, presents, decorated trees, and everything colored red and green. Maybe you do too. But did you know that there are holidays where people gather to eat, pray, dance, sing, remember, and love one another, happening all year round? Come and join us.
Liz, please read to us about Solar, the Korean Lunar New Year, and then read about another New Year that's important to your family, Rosh Hashanah, and tell us about your personal connection with each of those days.
I'm Jenny, and I love to celebrate Solar, the Korean Lunar New Year. Even though we are far from our relatives across the ocean, my cousins and I wear our hanbok and honor our ancestors by offering food in the Chaaya ceremony. When we eat, I try to devour as many bowls of dokgu as I can hold. I always look forward to playing yutnori and flying kites in the sky. I also celebrate Lunar New Year with my friend Grace. Her family is Chinese American, and we watch the lion dancers parade through the streets in her neighborhood together. Do you celebrate with parades for your holidays? I'm Noah. When my family celebrates Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we reflect on our past actions and words and look to the future. On Rosh Hashanah, the shofar is blown to welcome the holiday. My brother and I count how long the final note lasts, but we sometimes run out of fingers. My favorite treat is dipping apple slices into honey in hopes of a sweet new year. Yom Kippur is our holiest day. We walk to the synagogue dressed in white. Some of the grown-ups in my family fast, and we all apologize to anyone we might have hurt in the past year. When nighttime comes, we break the fast with noodle kugel and bagels. How do you celebrate the new year? So as being Korean, American, and Jewish, both of these holidays, I guess all three of these holidays, hold really special places in my heart and identity. Although growing up, I wasn't very connected to a lot of aspects of Korean culture. And it took me a long time to really figure out who I was, what it means to be Korean American and Asian American. For Rosh Hashanah, I grew up going to synagogue with my family. We would often host our relatives over. There would be tons of people over at our home. Even this past year, we did it again. And it was so wonderful to have, babies in the family with other kids and my parents' friends and other relatives all together in this really joyful celebration. As for Sola, it's something that I've actually started celebrating more and more in recent years, connecting with other Korean American friends. I would call them maybe my found family or chosen family. And it's been a really wonderful way to connect with my heritage that I didn't have a lot of exposure to growing up.
Now let's focus on a few holidays that are important to Chaaya's family, Onam and Divine. Liz, could you please read about the holiday Onam and how it is celebrated by people all over the world, but originated with people in the Crayola region of India?
Priya here. I love making art on Onam. My brother and I helped to create Onam Pukalam, artwork made with bright flower petals. Together, we collect flowers from our garden and carefully separate the petals as we lay them into beautiful designs. We gather for a potluck dinner, and the room bursts with people I love. My dad tells his stories of the Valamkali boat races in his youth, while I skip in circles, pretending to be the beloved King Mahabali. Which holidays make you feel connected to your family? My name is Annika, and Diwali is packed with stories. After cleaning up our home, I light the diyas with my family, and together we snack on treats like halwa and ladu. On Diwali, my auntie tells the story of the powerful Ravana with 10 heads and 20 arms and his defeat by the brave Lord Rama. Diwali lasts for 5 days and reminds us of the triumph of good over evil. Snuggled close, we watch the shadows dance across the wall. Which of your holidays use light to celebrate?
Chaaya, please tell us some of your memories and your personal connections with these holidays that Liz just read us about.
So I'm from southern India. The thing about India that most people don't realize is every region is so different. There are different things celebrated all over the country, and oftentimes it's so different that people within the country haven't heard about some festivals that are celebrated in other parts of the country. So Onam is actually celebrated in southern India in Kerala, which is quite close to where I'm from. A lot of the culture is quite similar to mine, so it's something that I relate to a lot. So what happens during Onam is the thing that sticks out to me in my head is the banana leaf meal. So everybody has a huge feast where there are banana leaves laid out on a table and the food is served on the banana leaves and everybody eats it together. Then there is, of course, as Liz mentioned, Onam Pokolam, which is also there in the book, which is people get flowers and then they make these huge, intricate designs on the floor. And very interesting thing is there are lots of competitions that happen where people compete to make the best design. So yeah, it's a lot of food and it's a lot of color and flowers. And the thing that sticks out to me about Onam is of course, people coming together. Just as Liz mentioned in her holidays, the similar thing with the holidays that we celebrate is everybody comes together. And then for Diwali is of course one of the biggest holidays celebrated in the country, and it's actually celebrated differently in different parts of the country. But the common thread amongst all of them is that people light up a lot of lights, a lot of lamps, because the idea behind Diwali is the victory of the light over darkness. What I've grown up seeing is all the buildings get decorated with tons of string lights, tons of lamps. A lot of people light fireworks, and then a lot of people let lamps, paper lanterns, and they let them go into the sky. And then there's a lot of food, of course, like there's people just share, everybody shares sweets with each other. So I usually end up with boxes and boxes of sweets that I have to finish. So it's a lot of eating and a lot of fun, and everybody comes together. And yeah, that's the one.
It sounds wonderful. What holidays really are made for, right? Friends, family, and food. Sounds wonderful. Chaaya, please tell us about your amazing art style. Before you lead us in the art activities, tell us about your passion for creating whimsical artwork and why your vibrant illustrations often focus on exploring optimism and optimistic themes.
My art style is a consequence of where I've grown up. I tend to make very busy drawings where there's a lot going on the page. I use a lot of color. I'm very bold with the shapes and patterns that I use. And a lot of the cities in India are also a lot like that. They're busy and they're noisy and they're loud. And so a lot of my style and the things that I gravitate towards when I draw are because of the places I've grown up in and the things that I've seen. You don't even realize how much color there is in the city until you leave and come back. It's only when you leave and come back that you see that everything is bursting with patterns and colors and everything. So I can't help but gravitate towards those things. Thank you for calling my work optimistic. I think that's a very nice way to put it. And that's because this drawing is something that I do not just for work, but it's also something that I do for fun. So when I am creating illustrations, I'm also trying to have a lot of fun with it. I'm playing around with the shapes, I'm playing around with the colors. So there's a lot of whimsy and it's an escape for me as well. So there's a lot of optimism.
I love that description. Your art really does have a lot of personality and energy, and it just radiates. I'm excited that now we have Chaaya doing the first of our 2 art activities that you will be able to follow along. The first art activity is lights glow. Chaaya, a pattern that we see throughout the book is how common it is for lights, whether it's lanterns or candles, to be part of the holiday celebrations. While there are some unique designs that are specific for particular holidays, this practice of spreading a glowing light is seen in many cultures around the world. Please demonstrate how to draw a couple different light sources from the book and talk about the similarities and differences of how they're used to brighten people's holidays.
First thing that I'm going to demonstrate is a red lantern that is, you can see during the Japanese festival called Obon. A lot of these lanterns are strung up on a wire or on a thread. And so I'm just going to use construction paper today. This is Crayola construction paper. You just have to start by just roughly drawing the shape of a lantern. So it's kind of long and cylindrical. So you start with a line, just another long curvy line at the bottom, and then another line here, a straight line here, and then the same thing, but this time it's going up, and then you join it at the top. So that's basically the shape of a lantern. You might want to use a pencil when you do this. I'm just using a marker, a Crayola marker, because it's easier for me to show what I'm doing, but you can use a pencil. And then you just cut out this shape. So I've already done that here. So I have a cutout shape here. And now we can just decorate this lantern. I'm using metallic markers for this because they really pop against the construction paper. I'm just going to draw some flowers on it. You can draw whatever you want. I'm using flowers for this one because it's easy and you can see it clearly against the red. Tiny flower shapes like this. And then you can swap out your marker for another one and just like draw around these flowers just for make it more fun. So these lanterns are usually made of paper. So they usually have this sort of plastic thing on top that's holding the paper together. So it's usually folded and flat, and then it's pulled up using the wires that are on the lantern. We can draw the black wire on the lantern now. So then you just have to draw a square on top using this marker, and then just color it in. And again at the bottom, and then those 2 wires that go across the paper like this, they can just be 2 lines that you draw with. You can use a thick marker for this, so it's faster. That's a basic lantern. And I was practicing this a little while ago, and I made string of lanterns that you can make. You just paste it on a wire and then you can hang it up somewhere. I've also used a bit of glitter on this. So you can use a bit of glitter glue to decorate this if you want. I can show you how to do that. Then I have 2 lines that go across here because it always pops against the black. So I need to do that. Yeah. And then you have to leave this to dry, and it should take a few hours, but then it should dry. And then you can paste it on the wire and make a string like that. That was the lantern demo. So for this, I'm using this markup and watercolor pad, and I'm going to use neon oil pastels. For Nowruz, which is the holiday that's celebrated, it's actually celebrated by a lot of people in India as well. Fire is central to the religion of Zoroastrianism, which is the religion that celebrates Nowruz. For this demo, I'm going to show you how to draw the ceremonial fire. So for this, we're just going to start with one quickly line like this, and then go on top and then stop. And then start from the same spot, and then another squiggly line, just all the way to the bottom, and then stop. And then join these 2 together, and that's the basic fire shape. And then another of the same thing, but thinner on the inside. And then what you notice when there's fire is there's usually flecks of fire around that spray from the fire. So you can add those as like little droplets. So just like an oval sort of shape in these gaps. That'll make it look like the fire is just spraying everywhere and it'll make it look more luminous. And then there's usually a container at the bottom. I'm just using a marker to make this. And 3 legs at the bottom just to support it. And then we can color this. So for this, I really like these neon oil pastels because I use a lot of neon in my work. So this is great for bright poppy stuff like this. There are 3 oranges in this neon pack. I'm going to use all 3 of those. So first, take the lightest one and then just start with the center and just start coloring it in. And then do the same for all these little fire specks that are around. And then you take the second lightest orange, so the one that's in the middle, start at the top here. I really like oil pastels because they're so fun to use and they're very creamy almost when you work with them. So they feel very good to use. Fun thing about them is they really blend with each other. So if you use one color on top of the other, it'll almost blend and create this gradient kind of an effect, which works really well for things like fire, where, colors are sort of blending into each other. So then once you've done the top half of that, you can stop and then pick the darkest orange, then start from the bottom. And then you'll see that when you go over the light orange in the middle, it's blending into the other one. And just coloring on top of the other orange will create this effect. Because some people like to even get their fingers in and just like smudge it so it blends even smoother. So you can do that if you want. And the same thing on this side. And then you can use the same one and just add that sort of darker layer at the bottom and in all these shapes. And then make it really pop. And that's how you draw fire.
Warm and festive, thank you. And thank you for showing us how the variety of different lights can brighten the holidays. Now for the second art activity. This is called festive foods. Most holidays include festive foods, and both of you described the feasts that were associated and the favorite foods that you remember from different holiday celebrations. Even if there's fasting like Yom Kippur, or food limitations like Ramadan. So often the celebratory meal has traditions as well as some restrictions around it. Can you show us how to draw foods that are associated with 2 different holidays? The banana leaf meal that is often made for Onam, and for Holi, show us how to draw thandai.
I'm going to start with the banana leaf meal. For those that aren't familiar, a banana leaf is a huge leaf. I actually have one right here because it was in our backyard. So as you can see, it's huge. This is just a cutting of a very small leaf. So you can imagine the big leaf is probably this big. So people use it in the place of a plate when they eat on a banana leaf. So it's basically, once you're done eating, you just roll it up and then you throw it back into the soil. So it just becomes a part of the soil. So you're not wasting any plastic or anything like that. So it's very sustainable. So for the banana leaf meal, you're going to start by drawing the banana leaf. So you just start with a shape that goes like that, and a little bigger like that. And then the same thing at the bottom, sort of like, almost like an avocado that's sideways. And then just join it at the bottom like that. As you can see, there's a stem that goes across the middle here. You can draw that next. And then what's usually done when you eat on a banana leaf is people usually sit on a table and there's usually somebody else serving everybody. So they usually serve you rice here, and then there's a bunch of side dishes that are placed on the other side of the stem, so on this side. And then you can just mix everything together and then just eat it any way you please. Usually it's very messy, but it's also a lot of fun. We're going to just draw all those things here. There tons of dishes that are made, and I can't possibly draw all of them. So I'm just keeping it very simple today. So we start with just like a cloud shape here for the rice. So just like a cloud shape there. Little grains of rice. So when you use this marker, when you want to get thin lines, you can just point it like that and use it. And if you want thick lines, you can sort of use the side almost. So I'm just pointing the end a little bit and using it. So I'm getting all these thin lines here. So then just a few rice grains that are outside. There's this round cracker type of a thing. It's called appalam, and it's usually kept on the side of the rice. It's like a big cracker almost. So you sort of crack this and then you scoop the rice with this and then you dip it in all the things. So I'm drawing that here. And it usually has like, it's puffy, so there are like bubbles on it. So I'm just drawing circles on it. And then there are banana chips. So they're like potato chips, but they're made by cutting bananas and frying them. They're all the rage in Kerala. So there's no meal that's complete without banana chips here. So it's just draw a few circles. And then you'll see that there usually on the inside of the banana, there are these markings. So you can add those here. And then there's usually quite a few sides that are on the leaf on this side. I'm not going to draw all of them. I'm just going to draw two. So there's usually like a veggie side dish. So I'm again starting with a cloud shape and then little squares for pieces of carrot and then some circles for peas. And then we'll just add another side here, which is usually some kind of spicy gravy or something like that. And there's a lot of curry leaves in the food. Curry leaves are just like tiny green leaves that are added to everything and they have a really great flavor. So I just like to add those. So that's basically how you draw it. When you color it, it looks something like this. Again, I've used oil pastels for this. What I really want to show you how to do is how to shade this. So as you can see, this is like a top view of the banana leaf. So all these things are going to have shadows on the leaf. So you just get a darker green, a green that's like slightly darker than this one. And then you just start by just redraw the same shape below all the things in the darker green and you'll create a shadow. So do the same thing. And this is basically how you create a shadow on anything. So you can, whatever drawing you're working on after this is how you can easily create the effect of the shadow. My art teacher taught me this when I was in second grade. So I've really carried forward this knowledge. Just like this is a circle. So you just redraw the same shape here and then just fill it in. The same thing. So just like a little cloud shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to look like there's a darker space below the object. That'll give you the illusion of the shadow. And then as you've seen on this leaf, there are these lines that go across like this. You just add those in with the crayon. Again, I'm using the side tip for this, and that'll help you make thin lines. And if you want to make thicker lines, you can just use the crayon like this. If you use it, place it flat, you'll end up creating thicker lines like that. But if you use the edge, you'll have thin lines. And these lines don't have to be perfectly straight because it's just a leaf and every leaf is different. So it doesn't matter if they're slightly wobbly. It just has to look like a leaf when you finish it. And then, like I showed you, just keep the crayon flat, shave this area. Just go around the edge of the leaf. Yeah, and that's it. That's how you draw the banana leaf nail. This next thing that we're going to make is called tandai. It's a drink that's made during Holi, and not just Holi, a lot of other festivals as well. And tandai is just almost like a milkshake. So it's made in and often served in an earthen pot. So it's just made of clay and it's like a tiny pot and they pour the drink into it. And there are so many different kinds of tandai, but the most common one usually it's very sweet and has lots of saffron in it. and it also has a lot of pistachio in it. That's what we'll be making today. Again, I'm using construction paper for this because the way I like to draw, I like to think of everything as shapes. So it's always very useful for me to, just use construction paper and just create the shape of the drink. Start by just drawing an oval sort of shape like that on construction paper, and then just have to cut this out. I've already have the shape cut out, so I'm using this here. And then we move to an orange construction paper. So this is kind of close to the color of the earthen pot when it's actually done. So you can use this paper for this. And then just place the yellow cutout on the orange paper and then just draw around it. Leave a little bit of space between the yellow and the orange and then just go over the same shape like that. And then you just curve it inwards on these two sides. Then bring it out again. And then join it at the bottom and you have the shape of a pot. Again, you can start with pencils and go and then cut it out. I'm just using a marker so it's just shows better. I've cut out this shape already, so I'm just going to use this. Then we get this shape. Then we place this on top and just paste it on. So I have some glue here. I'm just going to do that and paste it on. So this part, this is where the tandai is. So you can see the shape of the pot and this drink. It looks yellow because the saffron, when it dissolves in the milk, it makes everything look yellow. We're just going to draw some saffron on this drink. Saffron it just looks like tiny pieces of thread. So you can just draw it like that. This is actually what it looks like in real life. So it's not even an exaggeration. Then get some green for the pistachio. So there are usually broken bits of a crunchy pistachio that's on top, tiny broken pieces like that. And that's basically what the drink looks like. But the more fun part is decorating the pot. The pots often have a lot of designs on them. So that's something that makes this more interesting. So you can just go in with a design like this. And I'm using metallic markers for this because they really they show against construction paper very well. And then I'm going to use some gold and some other colors. And these designs can be anything. I'm just drawing this pattern, but they can be anything you want it to be. Adding a few dots here. Or if you want to keep it simple, you can just do like very wavy line here like this, and then just dots on either side of it. You'll see this pattern a lot on earthen pots in India. And then you go back with your red marker and then just draw a line like that, connecting these two ends, and it'll look like it's a pot. And then I've made a few more here. So as you can see, you can really experiment with these designs. They don't all have to look like this. You can draw anything you want. And I've used glitter on this one as well. So you can just add some dots of glitter here with the glitter glue. But make sure you let it dry once you're done doing this. I always like to use glitter as the last step because then you can do everything else without getting glitter on your fingers. And this is just the last thing you do, and then you just have to leave it to dry. That's how you make tandai.
They look delicious. Wow. And when you said that before, I just can imagine a group of family or friends enjoying that delicious drink. Thank you. Now that you've seen Chaaya's wonderful illustrations, it's time for you to draw. Grab some crayons or markers and paper and decide if you're going to draw a glowing light or a festive food. After this session, young artists will have plenty of time to finish their artwork. We recommend that parents and teachers ask children about their drawings and discuss what they learned about holidays that are celebrated around the world. And when children finish their art, please post a photo in the comment section of this video. We can't wait to see what they create. I have a special message for parents and teachers. While kids of all ages are busy drawing, I want to mention that parents and teachers can be the first to know about our next Crayola Art of Learning program and the other free colorful learning experiences just by signing up for the Crayola Education monthly e-newsletter. Just check the education box when you sign up. Liz, as we head into the winter season, what advice do you want to share to help kids keep an open mind and be curious and respectful of how other families celebrate their holidays?
I think it's really important to often ask what people celebrate, how they celebrate certain holidays or traditions, rather than just assuming that everybody does the same thing that you do. Approaching each other with curiosity, asking questions, I think is a really great way to start learning about other people. And if you also find out that maybe friends or classmates of yours celebrate holidays that you don't celebrate, it's really important to make sure that we don't do what I call yucking somebody else's yum, saying things like, "Oh, that's such a bummer that you don't celebrate this holiday," or "I feel so sorry for you." Instead, ask them what they love about theirs, and chances are you're really going to learn something.
Great advice. Chaaya, you've lived in many communities and have seen friends observe different holidays throughout the year. What advice would you like to share about honoring others' cultural traditions?
I've been lucky to live in different places all over the world. I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years, and I also spent a fall quarter in the US. So I've seen a lot of different festivals celebrated in all these different places. For example, when I was in the US for fall, I saw Halloween celebrated at a huge scale that I've never seen before. And then when I was in Hong Kong, the Lunar New Year was the biggest celebration I'd ever seen. So I got to see all of that. And then, of course, living in India, there's so many different religions coexisting. For example, in the apartment building that I'm in, my neighbors are Muslim and then they're Christian. And then there are also some people of other religions living in the same building. So when everyone celebrates something, so everyone's willing to share with other people. So my advice would be something that I do a lot, which is to read up about the festivals that happen, because when you try to understand the history of why something is being celebrated, you'll learn a lot about the people that are celebrating it as well.
We want to thank Liz and Chaaya for inspiring us today. And we also want to thank Harper Kids for collaborating with Crayola on this Art of Learning program. And we want to share a special thanks for everyone who's joined us. Remember, every holiday helps us celebrate what we have in common with others and learn about what makes us each so special.
Bye, all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye. Thank you for creating art with me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.